So, in 1 minute, let's review a few things of chemistry, and I figure why not make a video about chemistry so that I can share my little knowledge with the rest of the world. Maybe people struggle and people that want to learn a little bit. So, look, we get information from the periodic table. The periodic table has all the elements that we humans have found. Most of them are natural elements, some have been developed in labs. But for most part, one of the things that any student of chemistry needs to learn how to do is to learn to read the periodic table. We use symbols in chemistry to represent uh, atoms of the elements. And the symbols that we use is usually a letter. For example, we want to represent one atom of the element of carbon, we will write the letter C. Sometimes we put coefficients in front, and those coefficients, like this one here, it means that there are two atoms of carbon or 2 moles. We can extend the concept of one atom or one particle to the concept of moles. We were to have 6.02 times 10 to the power of 23 atoms of carbon, that would be considered 1 mole. So whether it's 1 atom or 1 mole, it's similar. So 1 mole of carbon will have 6.02 times 10 to the power of 23 atoms of carbon. 1 atom of carbon is just 1 atom of carbon, pretty much. But atoms are so small that we have to use large quantities, so we use the unit of the mole. So again, and like I mentioned, the elements, we represent them with letters, with the symbol for carbon. Sometimes we use 2 letters, and the first letter, notice that it's always capitalized. The second letter, it's lowercase letter. So for example, iron, we represent the letter Fe, which comes from the Latin ferrum. And sometimes when we talk about recycling, we refer to iron or materials that have iron as ferrous material. But yeah, so again, we use the periodic table, so each element has its own letter. For oxygen is O, for nitrogen is N. Question is, what the W stands for? What element is W? I'll let you find that one out. You can find out the periodic table. Look in the periodic table, find the W. That will give you the name of the element. And again, remember that the first letter is always capitalized. The second letter always has to be in lowercase letter. That is to avoid confusion, because when we talk about formulas for compounds, whether it's an ionic compound or a molecular compound, we have to make sure that we know which elements are present. And if we don't write them the symbol properly, we're going to confuse people, or we're going to confuse ourselves and think we're producing something totally different, or we're going to think that we need a specific material for a reaction, when the reality is that we need a different reaction. For example, the best case that I can give you is when you write cobalt and or CO, carbon monoxide. So if you're not careful, I'll write it over here. Carbon monoxide is CO. Cobalt is C, lowercase o. So if you write a capital C and a lowercase o, you can confuse yourself and think that this is cobalt instead of carbon and oxygen. So that's why we have to be very specific when we write the formulas of the symbols of the elements that are in a compound, or when we write the symbols during practice for single elements. Anyway, I hope you all like this video, and I hope this helped you understand better chemistry. And again, the information about the elements and the symbols, you can find them in the periodic table. We use the periodic table. We don't have to memorize the symbols of the elements, but sometimes if you study a lot of chemistry, at some point or another, you're going to realize that some elements, because we use them quite often, you will memorize them. For example, sodium, I know the symbol for sodium is Na, and chlorine, which is another element that we use often in chemistry and in chemical processes, so it's Cl. So I know those elements because of that, because they are widely used in chemical processes and the chemical industry, and they come along a lot in examples of chemical reactions when you study chemistry. So carbon is another one, especially when you study chemistry and you study organic chemistry. So carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, and hydrogen, which is the first element in the periodic table. Also, I have memorized the symbol, which is the letter H. So anyway, that's all I have. Any question, feel free to ask it. And this is the first video of Basics of Chemistry. I will continue making more videos as I go along. Hopefully you like it. Hopefully you learned something today. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.